Greetings, gentle listeners, to an episode of Lesbian Talk. And what episode is that, my love?
It's episode 49, actually.
49, dude! That's 20 away from something rude. Oh, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I didn't think that when we started doing this, like, a while ago, we'd get this far. I figured we'd, do a few episodes and then lose interest.
So, is there anyone listening to us who wishes we would stop doing them?
Probably.
Because, if enough of you say yes, then we might.
I just think it's really funny that everyone in the comments is like, it took you this long to get on Tigwittig. I'm like, we didn't
to be on Tigwittig, as though we were begging Rob Walker and Mike Machad since the first episode.
To be on that guy with the glasses, that was like your dream. It's like other people's dream. It was never a goal of mine in life.
Well, yeah, no, I got into movie reviewing hoping to be on Tigwittig, but I just think it's funny that they think I had to beg and beg and beg for 40 episodes of this podcast after I was already on that guy with the glasses, so I could put my podcast on the side. And just so you guys know, somewhere around episode 35 to 40, somewhere around then, I went to Mike Machad and Rob Walker and was like, "Hey, I have a podcast. You interested in putting on the side?" They took a couple of weeks, listened to a few episodes, found out there was nothing too inappropriate about the podcast, let me upload. I waited a couple extra weeks so that we could get back from MagFest before dealing with all that, and we went. Yeah.
So if we got a problem, talk to Tigwittig management. Don't talk to me.
Don't bother Omega about it. And if you're gonna make comments,
I just have page. I just work here.
If you're gonna leave, you can
email your comments to Linkara. No, don't do that.
Actually, that happened once. Someone did that video with his real account, and he got in trouble.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it. But don't do that, because Lewis is a nice guy. So.
Yeah, if you're gonna leave comments that are indistinguishable from trolling, then at least make it about the episode and not just whining about the fact that people who are openly LGBT have a fucking podcast and it's on that guy with the glasses. Like, how dare us try to have an entertainment-based podcast and put it on an entertainment site? How fucking dare us?
It's just as simple. If you bitch about Lesbian Talk, you're no longer allowed to watch lesbian porn. Chew on that. Or actually, don't chew on that. But anyway, you have to pardon me. I've taken a sinus tab, so I'm a little loopy. But what was our word for last week?
Our word was something really long, beginning with like an E or something, and it's about a brain.
Encephalon.
Encephalitis.
No, encephalitis is like an inflammation of the brain. How have you known me for this long and been married to me, and I've not increased your vocabulary?
You have increased my vocabulary. Now I know what Patuxet is.
Patuxet is a place. Well, actually, it's a river, but it has nothing to do with anything. Stop clouding the issue.
Well, just because I don't regularly in my everyday parlance, in my indomitable verbiage, use the word encephalon in that thing.
Encephalon?
It doesn't mean that my vocabulary is in any way intercrastic. I've had quite enough.
A new word, and that's obnoxious.
I have had quite enough of your contrafibularities.
I've had quite enough of your obnoxiousness for one day. How'd you like them apples? But anyway, the brain. Actually, I'm very fascinated by the brain. I'm going to university for psychology, but I will admit that my interest does lean a little bit towards the neurological aspect of that.
Which means she'd be into the brain.
Yeah,
and she wants to know about the you shoot the guy in the head, why he changed his status from dead to alive.
Well, no, I mean, it's just, I think that's really interesting. Like, Phineas Gage, that railroad worker that accidentally got a railroad tie shot through his skull, and they couldn't remove it. It would have killed him. So he lived the rest of his life with part of this thing lodged in his skull, and it completely changed his personality because he accidentally gave himself a frontal lobotomy.
Yeah, he apparently went from really nice to really horrible.
Yeah.
But are you sure they had part of it lodged in there? I thought that there
was a small part that stayed in his brain.
Small part.
Get it out.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I didn't realize that.
He didn't walk around like one of those like Abbott and Costello bits where like he swings around and someone ducks, he swings back, and then they fall down.
I have to admit, when you said he had part of it lodged in his brain, that was the visual, because I'm fairly sure I've seen pictures of the actual railroad spike in a museum, and it was like there wasn't a massive part removed where his head was.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't the whole entire thing, but there was a portion of it. And I think that's fascinating that these little, it's one thing to look at someone and say, oh, this person is crazy. you haven't examined, are they suffer from an actual mental illness, or is there an actual problem with the brain? Like, people who are conspiracy theorists, like, there's obviously some kind of problem with their pattern recognition software, as it were. But what? What little tiny change makes an actual cognitive change? I think that's fascinating.
I don't know if conspiracy theorists are all physically, mentally ill. It could just be...
I mean, like, that there's obviously some commonality, some neurological commonality that they share that, like, I mean, so if you're having just a really shitty day, like, you go to cut up some footage and you realize, oh, god damn it, there was a dildo in shot the whole entire time, or the lighting was wrong, or something like that. And then, you wanted something for dinner, but you don't have one ingredient you need, you don't want to go out and get it, and then the cat gets trapped in the coal bin, or whatever bizarre UK adventures you guys end up having. You would be like, oh, I'm just having, like, the worst day. But how is it that you think to yourself, oh, what rotten luck, I'm having a bad day, and another person thinks they're all out to get me, and these are the signs? Like, what is different between their brain and yours, given the same input, they have a different output? I think that's what interests me.
There would definitely have to be some sort of physical difference, because obviously we have different brains. So I think a big part of it might be non-brain part. I don't want to say non-brain stuff, because all of your mind is dependent on the brain, and if anything the brain moves, it does affect the mind.
Is there a chemical that affects that? It's interesting. I want to know.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating subject, and I don't know anything about it, so I can't possibly yell at you.
Okay, good. You're like, I want to talk about brains, about how they are in movies and zombies eat them.
I can do that if you want. But the fact that the brain, if it gets damaged in any sort of way, it affects the mind as is. This is one of the... I find it rather... I'm just wondering how the idea of the soul can survive that. Every bit of evidence we have suggests that what makes a person exists solely because of the brain. It exists solely because of the brain. So, whenever you're dead, it just makes the concept of the soul a little bit even less sort of likely for me.
I think that the basic defense of the idea of a soul is that it is something metaphysical, that it transcends the physicality of what is going on in the brain at the time.
Yeah, but when you get to heaven, do you have your memories? Because if you have your memories, it means the brain has to be there.
Well, actually, according to one priest that I know, you don't. Like, check it out. Like, there's a whole thing, oh, well, you'll go to heaven and you'll get reunited with all of your loved ones that have died. Well, Father Joe said, actually, that's not the way. And I was like, what? But all of television has told me. And he's like, but think about it. So suppose you get to heaven, and you're like, oh, it's Uncle John, and oh, there's Aunt Martha and Grandma Sue, and then you're like, but wait a second, where's my little brother, Jimmy, who died 5 years ago, and where's so-and-so? And you realize, oh no, they can't be in heaven, they must have gone to hell, So you would suffer. You would feel suffering. Because you feel bad for them, you miss them, you wanted to see them, but they're in hell and they're suffering. And so it's one of the certainties. It's one of the certainties that there's no suffering in heaven. So therefore you can't retain your human memories. And I was kind of bummed out by that, I won't lie.
And I will say, well, with that argument, my reply to that is, then you're not going to heaven, because you are the sum of your memories. And the physical body and all that sort of stuff.
That's what at least some Catholics believe, is that that's true, but there's some essence, kind of like the superego. There's some essential part of you that might not always be conscious, but that is the soul.
Yeah.
And that can exist separate from memories, which I didn't really understand. But
Well, I'd still say that if you have your memory wiped, you are not the same person as you were before. I hate to be so cut and dry about it, but by that person's understanding of heaven, no one's getting to heaven. We're going to go through what is indistinguishable from non-existence.
Well, he also said you exist in a permanent state of bliss, so I don't know. You have to track down Father Joe and ask him.
No, the current inhabitor of my soul, which will be made up of memories in heaven and other shit, will be in bliss. But let's talk about brains in movies and like zombies and stuff.
Brains in heaven.
Send more paramedics. The idea that zombies eat brains is It actually originates in Return of the Living Dead. It's like one of these amusing things that you see zombies in, like, you know, some sort of cartoonish way. They're always saying brains, and that's very, very uncommon if you've watched more than, like, 2 zombie films. You notice that. Most zombies don't do that. They're usually eating flesh apart from everything else. They usually eat flesh, not brains. Although, I have to say, the Night of the Living Dead zombies, the classic Romero ones, probably do eat brains, but it's not their sole purpose. It's like a side thing. I don't think we've ever seen them actually eating a brain.
Yeah, that would be really wasteful, because then you'd be, like, killing a whole human just for the brain, and you should eat their other meat if it's useful.
Yeah, the Romero ones are sensible. While
the Romero zombies have a better carbon footprint.
The Return of the Living Dead, that's the film that came up with the brains idea, because they're one of the few... Well, at the time, they were one of the few types of zombies that could actively speak and had sentience. And the reason they ate the brains was, and I quote from the film, because it gets rid of the pain of being dead.
Well, there you go.
It's incredibly logical.
Endorphins. Except that wouldn't be as horrific.
I wonder what voodoo zombies, if they would ever eat brains. Well, I suppose they would if they were commanded to by their zombie masters.
Yeah, but voodoo zombies are a little bit different, because they're not technically the undead. They're just the brain dead living. So they could eat, like, fish or mangoes or anything.
Yeah, they're sort of catatonic and given controls. Well, and according to the voodoo religion or some of the priests and stuff, they're supposed to actually be dead. While, if you're sensible at all, you realize that
that's
no. If anything, they're drug addicted people. People who have had drugs taken, which make them do that.
Yeah, that neurotoxin from pufferfish.
Yeah, stuff like that. Voodoo's a fascinating religion.
I had a book about voodoo once. Oh, it was like all like the different things and stuff and history and.
I recently watched the 3rd season of American Horror Story, and I think you should check it out.
It's on my Netflix queue, and quite honestly, it's been on my next Netflix queue since like the first one, and I'm gonna eventually. And everyone said it's fantastic, and
Well, the series is very hit and miss. It's very trashy. The 3rd one, I think, is the closest chance to you liking it, because A, it's set in New Orleans.
Oh, it's with the witches, right? And it's got what's-her-face in it?
Kathy Bates.
Yeah, I like her.
Kathy Bates is playing Madame Lalaurie, the infamous New Orleans sort of white woman who would torture all the slaves. We saw her at the outside of her house. And Marie Labeau, the voodoo queen of New Orleans, she's a main character as well, played by Angela Bassett.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. I heard that she was in it. Yeah, I will eventually, you know.
And honestly, bits of it struck me. It's very similar to how a Masquerade series would go too, because you had a bunch of people with superpowers being absolutely horrible and bitchy and doing plans and plotting against each other for the entire fucking time.
So very World of Darkness?
Yeah. It's basically Vampire the Masquerade, but camp and with witches.
See, I was eventually gonna try to do a review of Kindred the Embraced, but I can't now because I wanted a cameo from Elisa from Maven of the Eventide, but she's like all sorts of pregnant now, so I don't want to ask her to film if it's not like she's too tired.
Shoulders.
No, but I mean if she's like being pregnant apparently really takes it out of you, so and I'd be like, I need a cameo. I can't, I'm pregnant. Okay.
Well, she's not very pregnant. I mean, she's pregnant, but it's like got to be the first 4 months.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do this right now. This is going to be an eventual thing. So I might as well just wait until after she's had the baby.
Okay. Have you bought a copy of Kindred the Embrace box set yet?
Yeah, it's on my wish list.
Okay. Well, if no one buys it for you, then I can always.
My wish list is not public because I don't.
I was talking about me.
Oh, okay. Well, no, because some reviewers would be like, "Here's my wish list if you want to buy me anything," but mine's mostly used books, so I don't really make it public.
Well, I have 2 wish lists. I have my own personal one, which is entirely non-public, and I have my.
No, it's not. Cause I can see it.
Well, yeah, it's on a computer in your. Yeah. But then there's the one for possible Hagan reviews, which is, I call it semi-public. I mean, it's available. If you get the link to it, you can look at it and choose anything you want.
Well, there you go. If you ever wanted to buy Hagan a DVD, that's all.
If you want to, you can talk to me. I can provide you the URL if you wish, but I don't want to put it on my website or anything because I don't want people to think that they need to do that. So it's just if someone wants to, they can come to me.
But anyway, brains.
Yes. Bruce Campbell starred in a movie called The Man with the Screaming Brain.
Was his brain screaming?
I don't know, I haven't seen it yet. Apparently it's shit, though.
Oh. Yeah, but if it's shit with Bruce Campbell, it's, like, already a leg up from regular shit. And you can quote me on that.
Except, well, shit with Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, but he's your favorite, not mine.
Jeffrey Combs is amazing.
But
he was Reanimator.
I know. I wasn't a fan of the movie because I liked the original story. No, because it went... I'm sorry, it's good as a movie on its own, but it went too far away from the original short story for me to enjoy it.
I'm pretty glad I've not let you watch Reanimator 2 or 3 because they don't just keep away from... They don't just go further with the subject and go away from the original. They run out the door down the street and end up somewhere in the next state.
I don't know why it's so difficult to adapt. And I know we've talked about this a billion times on the show. It's just, I really want to see a really good, very pure adaptation of Lovecraft.
I've seen a really cool documentary about Lovecraft and called Fear of the Unknown, and it's an hour and a half, and it's on YouTube. And it's got interviews with Neil Gaiman, with Guillermo del Toro, with the guy actually who directed Reanimator, a bunch of other people, and it's fascinating.
I should watch that. You know, I saw a trailer for a Lovecraftian type of movie, but that looked like it was really taking the piss as well. And you shared it with me, and I can't remember what it was called, but I really want to see.
The Last Lovecraft?
Maybe that was it.
That's the one where he's like the descendant of Lovecraft, and it turns out Lovecraft was actually battling monsters while writing about them.
Yeah, but it looked like it was tongue-in-cheek, but it looked appropriately tongue-in-cheek, and I was like, I could get into this.
I got a copy of that on DVD. I think it's wonderful.
I'll watch it eventually.
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, brains turn up in a lot in horror movies. Especially, I think that's probably because of Mary Shelley.
Because they're about the size of a football. An American football.
Yes.
Not a soccer ball.
Not a football, not your hand football.
Yeah. There's that part in The Taint where she just, takes out his brain, and she's caressing it and then throws it away.
Yeah, if you've not seen The Taint, it's the one about the erecto zombies, but her husband tries to kill her, so she, bashes his head and then pulls it his brain and caresses it lovingly before dumping it in the trash.
Those are really great.
I fucking love this.
Do you know, if I'm able to, I don't know if I'm going to be able to because of if you don't know, we're recording this on a Friday, but we're supposed to get between 1 to 2 feet of snow on Monday. But on Tuesday, if I can make it into the city down Callow Hill, they're having a screening of Science Team.
They are?
Yeah. So I got an email from the Kickstarter about it, or the Indiegogo or whatever. But so I'm going to try to get out to see it, but if we do get that much snow, it's looking like I'm probably not going to be able to get into the city.
Science Team's the new film with the guys who did The Taint.
Yes.
I remember I paid $50 into the Indiegogo there. Did you update your address, or has my copy of it been lost?
No, they said, actually, in the update that they gave, talking about the Philadelphia screening, they can't release the DVDs until the screening tour is over.
Okay.
So, there you go.
It'll end up at yours at some point, and then it'll get sent on.
The thing is that even after I move, there's going to be still Kickstarter stuff coming to this address, because I kickstarted something, I threw in a whole bunch of money for Phil Bricado, who is one of the writers for Mage, for White Wolf's Mage the Awakening, or Mage the Ascension, and does a whole lot of other stuff. He wrote Delirium. Well, he was writing a new RPG called Power Chords about kind of music mages, and it was funded in October of 2010. And the problem is, he got pulled into a few really huge projects that he's using the pay from to fund the rest of what he needs for Power Chords. So he just finished Mage 20, M20, and their Kickstarter's going up in 24 hours, hopefully. So if you wanted to, support the Mage 20th edition, please do so. So hopefully that means soon the Power Chords will be done. So I sent him a message on Kickstarter saying, I just need to let you know, I've moved twice since this got funded. Here's my newest address. I'm still waiting on the Exalted the Exalted new edition, because that's still in writing. Still waiting on the physical copy, which I think should be in the next few months, of the Changing Breeds book that I kickstarted. But there's still going to be stuff coming to this address, and, family members are going to be like, a big, huge book came for you in the mail. Why did you send it here? Well, I didn't. I actually paid for it 3 years ago.
And then they're going to be like, well, we're not sending it to you in Northern Ireland with postage and packaging.
I'll PayPal them for it.
But they'll be all like, it's too big and heavy, it costs too much money. Blah.
I don't think that will happen.
But I got an idea, honey.
What's your idea?
Let's talk about coffee.
I love coffee. I don't have any coffee right now, because there wasn't time to... We have one of those, like, no, it's not a Keurig, but it's like a 1-cup thing. It's called an espresso. And it's alright, but I didn't want to F with that, so I just had soda. But I like coffee.
Wait, sorry, you said you had this coffee thing that's a bit like a curry and you call it an espresso.
No. Keurig is the 1-cup one where you just put a little cup in there and it heats up the hot water and it goes and it makes just a cup of coffee. And it's the Keurig. It's German. It's Keuring. That's the company.
And you call it an espresso?
No. But the one that we have is kind of like that, but the company is called Nespresso.
Oh, okay, I was confused because I was like, I've heard of espresso before. I'm fairly sure you didn't invent that term.
No. It's a Nespresso machine. It's alright. It takes its own little cups and there's, regular and decaf and flavors that you can do and stuff like that. And when I move, I might see if I can find it like Asda, like some kind of one of the cheap, knockoff 1-cup brand coffee makers.
I probably will be able to. I wouldn't know, though. I am not a coffee drinker. Or a tea drinker.
It's really funny. I'll take you into Starbucks and you're like a deer in the headlights. Like, what? Chocolate milk.
It's not chocolate milk. It's hot chocolate.
I know. Little kids drink chocolate milk.
My father likes to say I'm, like a Mormon.
You are. You don't drink coffee. You don't drink tea. I can barely even get you to drink alcohol ever.
Yeah, but I do a lot of other things that Mormons don't.
Like be gay?
Yeah, and drink soft drinks that are full of caffeine.
That's true.
There's a great deal of things that I don't have in common with Mormons.
That's true. Well, just when we were in Edinburgh, it was really cool because right next to the place that we were staying, there was a Starbucks. And one morning it was terrible, terrible weather. Apparently it's typical Scottish winter weather. It was very blustery. It was raining very hard. It was just
Edinburgh is renownedly windy.
Yeah. And so we had a whole bunch of museums we wanted to go to that day. And I said, look, I got to get some breakfast. And so we went to the Starbucks and I was that American. Like, it just flipped my mind. And I'm a barista. I've been trained. I'm fully cafe trained, and at the cafe at the store, we do work to Starbucks standards. So I'm used to going into Starbucks and ordering experiencedly, like a barista would. And so I come up like, yeah, I want things and stuff, and and blah blah blah, and things and stuff. And he's like, okay. And I said, I just want this with this with this. He's like, oh, okay. And then I felt so bad. I think he was a nice guy, this Scottish guy, but I felt so stupid. I was like, oh God, I was one of those Americans just now.
Well, it's not so much that. I think it's because he'd be used to terms and sort of slang terms for things that they have over there, but you had different ones in America, so you threw him off. If you knew the local versions and you'd said that, he would have been fine.
That's probably true. Like, we have something called a dirty chai, and although it sounds like a sex act, it's not. It's just, if you've never ordered it before, it's chai latte with a shot of espresso.
Yeah, if you asked for that.
Like, honey, would you know what I was talking about if I said I wanted to have a red eye?
I would suggest that you wanted to take some sort of flight from LA to London, preferably in business class or first class, so you could lie down and sleep.
A red eye is coffee, regular coffee with a shot of espresso. A black eye has 2 shots.
My other suggestion would be you wanted to watch a not very good film about a thriller set on a plane between LA and London.
I remember that when that came out, but I remember thinking, what a stupid title. But yeah, I mean, well, the thing is that, and I know this, because I know kind of like the secrets from being a barista almost, your barista probably hates you, just FYI, just to let you know. Like, we're cheerful, but that's because we kind of have to be or we'll lose our jobs.
When I was in London,
they hated you?
No, this was like opposite. It was like I don't know if it wasn't the last time I was in London, it was probably the last time I was in London for more than like a day. And I had been to the Ghost Bus tour, which was like a theatrical thing, drives around, takes you around different places, and they have this little theatrical show that goes on in the bus with actors and all. You have one actor who like leaps onto the bus when it stops at one point, and then runs around screaming, and then leaps off, and then runs across London and meets you up again later on. It's all very, very well done. And
Spoiler
the next day, I was in Starbucks near the London Eye, and the guy who had been doing the screaming and running around was actually served me and a friend of mine as a barista. And I was like, holy crap, what a coincidence. And I basically told him how much I enjoyed the show and how I thought that he did very well. And, it's a really, really good performance. And I thanked him for a very entertaining night the night before.
That poor guy. So he had to, go be on the Go store, then open at Starbucks next morning.
Well, it wasn't quite morning. It was probably about 2 o'clock or so.
Oh, good point. We were in Derry, and everybody was like, oh, you have to get KFC because our KFC is better than yours. I was like, whatever. And I got KFC. And then that night, we were filming the Police Academy vlog. Everybody's like, oh, let's get Chinese takeaway. And we're like, all right. So we went to the Chinese takeaway place. And the same girl who waited on us at KFC was like, oh, hello again. We're like, oh, no, you have to work, in every restaurant in Derry. And she's like, no, just these.
Yeah, and just in case you're just wondering, because we were doing the Police Academy vlogs that day, which was 7 films plus vlogs, the going off to get takeaway was kind of our holidays twice in that day.
I was sick too, so I was in a haze. I was like, what? Oh, look at this.
Last time I was over at the Minions, I went and got Chinese with Robin and Sarah, and we ran into the same woman who had worked there at KFC and there as well. We ran into her again, and we were having a
How's she doing?
We're having a gay old time.
I don't know why you had to sing that, but okay.
Because I was quoting the Flintstones.
Yeah. But, I mean, well, okay, let me impart some wisdom if we're going to be talking about this. Never order a venti, aka large cappuccino, dry. You know why? Because then they have to steam the milk for the cappuccino, but then they also have to steam a whole extra steamer's worth of foam just to fill up a venti cup because of your ass, because you don't know how to drink a cappuccino. And it's freaking obnoxious. And people who order their cappuccino extra dry, I'm split if they're worse than the people who order a cappuccino and they mean a latte, so they freak out and accuse you of cheating them. And you have no idea what I'm talking about, do you, honey?
I have very little idea. I
Okay.
do know that the 2 cats that live in my house were, for one night, going to be called...
Latte and cappuccino?
Yeah. They're going to be called Latte and Cappuccino.
And then you decided not to?
Well, it wasn't my choice.
That's just a bit too trendy.
My idea for their names were Biggles and Squeak.
Oh.
Which would have been really, really apt, because one of them is very squeaky.
Yeah. But, okay, well, I'll let you know, and then we should probably go to the music break. But a latte is the espresso shot, milk, the steamed milk, whatever other flavors you're adding to the latte, and then a little bit of foam on the top. Whereas a cappuccino is the shot, a bit of steamed milk, and then a lot of foam. So a lot of people will get something from the gas station or 7-Eleven that comes out the machine, and it's called a cappuccino, but basically it's just a flavored latte because there's no foam involved whatsoever. So they think they know what a cappuccino is, they come and they order a cappuccino, we make them one, and then they freak out and say, you're trying to cheat me, this is all made of foam, ah! And we're like, but you ordered a cappuccino, it's mostly foam. But why are we having this conversation? It's like once when I was working in a cafe, this woman came in, and she had a few, of her teen children with them, and they all ordered cappuccinos with various flavor shots. I said, okay, so it took me a really long time, and I made all their cappuccinos, and then she'd ordered a caramel macchiato, I remember that. So I made her the caramel macchiato, and I was like, all these drinks are ready. And the kids came over, and the oldest son took it, he's like, what the hell is this? This is all foam, you're trying to cheat me, I wanted a real drink. And we're like, yeah, mine's all foam too. And the mother, and I thought I was going to have to get the manager, but the mother had this great look on her face, and she's like, y'all ordered that. And you are not going to make you another drink because you ordered what you didn't want. And she walked away sipping her drink, and I was like, yes, thank you. Thank you, man. You're awesome.
Well, it's about time for Tony Goldmark.
I agree.
Man, that guy can rap about asparagus like no one else.
Asparagus?
Yeah, I'm just assuming the song that you're going to edit in there was Tony Goldmark rapping about asparagus.
Well, if it's not, we should probably tell him to do so.
Yeah, he should. That would be a good song. So, honey, have you noticed how my voice is very different now?
Yeah, it's like there's almost, it's no background hiss, and you're coming through so clearly to me.
It's amazing. Yes, guys, actually, you are listening to Time Travel in Motion, because this is actually 2 days later than the rest of the episode.
We're Time Lords. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, what happened was we worked out that my connection was really fucking up, and we couldn't get a clear signal on Skype, so when we gave up for that night. Then we tried the next night, same problem, and then the next day, this is the Sunday now, I'm over at the Minions, and so I'm borrowing Teddy's computer.
And they have a really good internet connection there.
And he has a better microphone than me.
Yeah. So, wow. That's another day.
In fact, I could probably use this microphone headset set up to my voiceovers.
Yeah, you could. You just have to live over the Minions.
Yep.
So, anyway, I think it's long overdue time for the trivia fact, in as much as it should have been 2 days ago. So, Giovanni, are you with us?
Yeah, boss, I'm here. It's really interesting, actually being able to hear Hagan, for once.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. You're just jealous because I have a T1 connection underwater. Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Anyway, so, did you know that the first webcam watched a coffee pot? It's true. It allowed researchers at Cambridge to monitor the coffee situation without having to leave their desks. The first webcam ever invented, and they used it to watch coffee.
A watched coffee pot never boils.
Well, of course not. You're not supposed to boil coffee in the coffee pot. In fact, on the little glass thing, it does specifically say, do not use this to boil liquids.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what. So everybody, I will see you next time. It's so wonderful to be heard, and with no background hiss. Bye-bye.
I don't know anything about coffee. I don't like coffee. And I come from a country that's all into tea. Even if you decide that I'm 100% Irish, I still come from a country that way prefers tea, because Ireland Ireland drinks more tea than the UK than England does.
I like tea. It took me a while to get into tea, because I knew there's a lot of girls in high school, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I like this kind of tea and this kind of tea, and I'm like, puh, tea, woof, whatever. And they're like, what? I'm like, okay, tea, think about this. Who's the first person that came up with this idea? Hey, let's take leaves, out the backyard and crunch it up and soak them in water until the water is brown. Then let's drink that. That sounds like the most horrible thing. And they were like, no, because it's about the essence of womanhood and goddessness and the connection with the earth and things and stuff. And I was like, But so now, working at the cafe and the bookstore, we sell Harney & Sons teas, which have good flavors, and so I like them. But I like iced tea more, though.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay? Shut up. Okay. Way to invalidate my tea experiences.
I like hot chocolate.
Why don't you check your beverage privilege, okay? Okay, that's the title for this episode. I was going to use what's your zombie carbon footprint, but check your beverage privilege. I think I like that. That's what we're going to go with. So now it's time for everyone else's favorite part of the show, which is a story from the store. Sometimes I call it one time at the store. It changes every time. So if this is the first time you've listened to the podcast, I have worked for 10 years at a large chain bookstore, and I have seen it all, and sometimes it's pretty incomprehensible, and this is one of those times. Now, this actually happened today. This happened a few hours ago when I was at register, so this story is fresh. So we're expecting a whole bunch of snow tonight and tomorrow. So, of course, the place is packed, because apparently now, when there's a snowstorm, you have to run out for milk, eggs, bread, and books. But whatever. I mean, it's good sales. We're glad for that. So I was working at the cash register for part of my shift. And this woman came up, and she had 3 kids with her, and she said, we're going to need to pay separately. Is that a problem? I said, no, that's fine. So the first little girl was about, maybe I want to say 5 or 6. And she bought 2 books, and her total was $8.26. So her mom helps her get out, her little change purse and helps her count out the 26 cents change, and she gets a 5. And I guess either didn't have enough ones or the mom didn't feel like dealing with the ones. She said, oh, we'll just give her the change and 2 5s. And I said, okay, cool, thanks. And so I, took the change, and I took the 2 5s, and I gave the mom, 2 1s. The mom put it back in the daughter's purse. And then I rang up the next 2 children and the mom, all while the daughter kept insisting, but we gave her 10. We gave her 10. It was only supposed to be 8. Why did we give her 10? My money's gone. And the mom was like, no, honey, remember she gave us change. No, but we gave her 10. And I said to the girl, I promise, honey, we're not trying to teach you. But I didn't have time to go run to another register and get a calculator because we had a line. And so I'm ringing up the other two kids, and this girl is like nearly in tears. But we gave her 10. All of my money is gone. All of my hard-earned money. And I wanted to be like, oh, hard-earned. That's good coming from a kid. And the other two kids were nice, and the mom was super nice. This girl was just going nuclear the entire time over the idea that the bookstore had purposely fleeced her of $2 in front of everyone, and she was the only one that had figured this out. And they finally left, and, I gave her the receipt, and she said, thanks so much. I said, have a good day, or at least try to. But we gave her 10.
Well, I think it's wonderful that she's getting practice for being fucked over by big business.
But the thing is that we're not out to fuck anyone over.
I'm not saying that your shop is, but, generally big business will fuck you over at some point in your life, so it's good that she's getting her practice in now.
I guess. It's just, what it reminds me of years ago? I rang up a guy, and he bought a few books. And this was an adult, mind you. This was not a child. And so he bought a few books, and I rang him up, and he paid with his credit card, and then started to walk away, and then looked at the receipt and said, aha! And I said, uh-huh. And he said, you're trying to cheat me. I said, oh, wait, what? He goes, you rang it up wrong. I said, well, let me see the receipt, because it's always possible. I double rang something, or I forgot to ring one thing, and that happens. And he goes, look, see, you added up all the items, and you added more. Right there, you added an extra bit. That's not an item. And I said, sir, that's sales tax. Yes, but you added extra. I said, well, sir, I didn't add that. The register adds it. He goes, you admit it. You admit your machine is adding on. And I said, sir, and I had to call a manager at that point. I said, sir, this is sales tax. It's Pennsylvania state sales tax. I can't take this off. And he thought that I was refusing to help him. And so the manager got involved, and we finally convinced him that this was state sales tax that everyone has to pay, regardless of anything else. And he went away. He's like, I'm going to call the state office tomorrow because I think you're making this up. And I was like, how have you gone your life without paying sales tax?
He was from Delaware.
No, he wasn't.
Well, that's just my suggestion. He was from Delaware. He'd never left Delaware.
Delaware touts itself as, quote, the home of tax-free shopping. So he'd have to understand that it's different other places. And actually he wasn't, honey. He was from Norristown, so. What? He was from Norristown. And the reason I know this is because our receiving manager in Norristown, he's like, hey, remember that crazy tax guy I saw him the other day at the Wawa? And I was like, But sometimes, I mean, I can understand, like, when I came to Ireland for the first time, and I was doing shopping in Dublin, and buying, souvenirs and things, and I was at the Guinness Brewery, they printed me off this big long receipt, and the girl says, you're from America, right? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, here, you need to take this out and fill this out and send it to the U.S. Customs Office and blah, 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 and you get back what you spent in VAT because you don't have to pay it because you're not an EU citizen. I said, okay, and it would have come to, like, basically the equivalent of, like, $6, so I didn't bother. But, like, I can understand, like, an American visiting Europe not understanding what VAT is. But
yeah, but it's basically like a sales tax.
Yeah.
But it's added on to the cost. You don't have it added to you at the register. It's the price. It's already there in the price.
See, that's what I like, because it's a bugger trying to have to figure out tax sometimes, especially like if it's it's such and such tax in this state, but if you're in the city of blah blah blah, it's also this and.
Yeah, you guys, it's really crazy going over there and selling that it costs you more than you expect. It's like, why do you guys take that?
Well, because sales tax is different in every state. And it's also different in municipalities. Like, it's 6% sales tax in the state of Pennsylvania. Within the boundaries of the city of Philadelphia, it's 7. That was the same thing. It was 6 in Virginia, but within the city of Alexandria, it was 7. In some states, Delaware has no sales tax.
You guys crazy.
It's not crazy. It's just the way. Do you have a better solution?
Yeah, you print out the prices in your local area with the local price, including tax.
Yeah, but I don't think that people would understand.
Well, we handle it. Like in Northern Ireland, all of our stuff is in pounds, but sometimes you can have things also in euros. But we deal with having different prices and things because we live next to a border. We can handle it.
Yeah, that's true. You guys have the euro to think about.
So it's possible. It's perfectly feasible to do it. It's just America not ever got into the swing of doing it. And now it does something that's plainly more awkward for the customer.
It's a living. Well, in Canada they have sales tax, and it's actually a lot too.
Is it added at the till?
Yeah, because I remember this was again on a field trip years and years ago. We were at this mall, and I was at a nature store, and I bought like some crystal dolphin thingy. All that nature stuff that was really big in the 90s. And like it was like labeled like 14 something. She's like, that'll be 21 something. I said, but it says, and she goes, oh, you're from the States, aren't you? I said, yeah. She goes, sales tax. It's like blah, blah, blah % I was like, wow. She's like, yeah, I know, it's a lot, isn't it?
I think I remember that.
You weren't there.
No, I thought that happened in when we were in Canada.
No. This happened when I was in 6th grade. I'm sorry, not in 6th grade. This happened when I was in 8th grade. Because between 7th and 8th grade is when we went to Quebec.
Okay. But shall we talk about something involving dragons?
We should. Now, I have recently got you addicted on something.
Don't know if addicted's quite the right word, but I'm enjoying playing it.
Addicted.
Because Omega got me Dragon Age Origins for a Valentine's Day present, which is an odd Valentine's Day present, but much more practical than flowers.
Because I wanted to get you, like, romancy, lovey things, and you were like, no, just look on my Amazon wishlist and buy me things, and I was like, well, fine. It was on there, and I like it, so I'm like, well, you should like it too.
I like it. I've completed it once playing a
douchebag asshole. I mean, a character.
Playing a city elf woman. I was going to play a heroic, nice character because I know you prefer to play paladins, and then I randomly chose a city elf because I didn't know anything about the way the world was set up. So city elf, that was an interesting idea. I'd never tried that before. And then suddenly I find out my character has been subjugated their entire life. The humans are horrible to them. They were slaves fairly recently. Their friends were picked up and raped. They were almost raped. Their friend was raped. Possibly someone was murdered. And it's just like, no, I can't be nice to humans. My character, therefore, is going to be a cunt to humans. Out of revenge. They have been subjugated and assaulted by humans their entire life. They're getting vengeance, and they're going to save the world, but not to save the humans. Saving the humans is just a side effect. But she was nice to other elves, and she was nice to dwarves.
That's good, at least.
But, I thought it was a realistic bit of role-playing to have my character really dislike humans. Basically, my character was the equivalent of if Malcolm X had to save the world. And I'm talking young, angry Malcolm X, not like older, hippie-ish Malcolm X. Yeah. But then now I'm playing it again. I'm playing a human mage, and I am playing them as a nice person, and they're totally in a romance with Zephyron the elf. Although I admit I'm only doing it. I'm only getting the romance working by looking up the wiki and telling what they have to do to make them fall in love with me.
Yeah, actually, BioWare took a lot of flack about the romances from people who were like, romance doesn't belong in video games, and some people were like, oh no, homosexuality doesn't belong in video games. And some people who are like, that's not a real relationship. It's just an algorithm. And I wanted to say as well, you're not actually really fighting. You're basically using fighting algorithms, but whatever. I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's an algorithm. It's a relationship done in computer game via algorithm, like they do fighting and everything. I don't really see the difference.
Yeah, but it's a lot more realistic than, I'm sorry, Mario, but your princess is in another castle.
Yeah, and at least it's got multiple, it's branching sort of things with lines, based on what you say, then they say other things. I really wish they'd go into more detail, though, because I'd love to be able to have more than just 4 things you can say.
Well, then that's an aspect of Dragon Age 2 that you're not going to like, because they kind of simplified it into this wheel where you have, like, the diplomatic / helpful answer, the joking and or charming answer, and then the quote-unquote direct or aggressive option. Or you also have the option to ask questions which have no connotation to them. So you can guess which dialogue options I choose.
It's Dragon Age 2 just doesn't strike. I'm sure I'll play it at some point, but I'm not really looking forward to it because I don't want to be stuck playing a human who's called Hawk, and I don't want to have that simplified thing.
Well, the reason that the dialogue is simplified like that is because Hawk is voiced. Like if you play Hawk as a female, then it's the same voice actress. And if you play Hawk as a guy, It's a voice actor that does that. So because the conversations are rendered as cutscenes, so they can be voiced, that's why the dialogue options, I mean, you can ask as many questions as you want, and sometimes the dialogue that you say will be different, like, the good option would be, are you really sure? But Hawk might say, yes, but thinking about that, is that actually what you want to do? So it's phrased a little bit different sometimes, but the outcome's the same. Which I like. I like that Hawk, that the character has a voice. It makes it a lot more personal to me.
I'm just annoyed that I'm not getting to play an elf or a dwarf. I'd like to go further. I'd like to play like a half-orc or something.
Well, I don't think you can do that. But in Dragon Age 3, in Inquisition, which is coming out this coming fall, hopefully, the Qunari will be a playable race.
Good. They're basically orcs.
Not really. I mean, I guess like in body type, yes, but in mentality, not really. Like you'll learn a lot more when you play Dragon Age 2. But if I was an artist or a cartoonist, I would totally draw and someone should do this, by the way, who's listening. If we have any of our artists listening, should draw a Qunari dressed up in Mormon missionary clothes, like the black pants and the white shirt, knocking on someone's door, saying, "Excuse me, sir, do you have a moment to talk about the Qun?" Creature or any of our artists, if you're listening, please do that. That will be really awesome. I'll retweet that. But I'm glad that you're liking it. I'm really, really find myself drawn into the series. Like, I read the first book and half of the second book years and years and years ago, and I liked them. I was like, that's pretty in-depth. But now I'm rereading it. I've got the third. I read there was a comic that David Geider wrote that was illustrated. I think Dark Horse did it. So I got those. I'm waiting. I was supposed to get my guide to Thetis, which is the world that this takes place in. But the used bookseller that I got it from is out in Pittsburgh, so it'll be probably months before I see that. But it's really an amazing active world building.
In case you're hearing noises, a cat has invaded.
Is it Chi or Lucy?
Is this Chi?
Make her make a noise.
Did you hear her?
Yes. Do it again.
Well, I'm not making her. She's talkative though. Chi is the sister of the two cats I have. They were from the same litter. She's small, jet black, very talkative, very inquisitive, very hyperactive, but standoffish. While but if she knows you, she likes you. While my two cats are fluffier and more multicolored, and one of them is much friendlier.
But I'm like really into it, like following on Twitter and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, new information's been released. I'm like, oh, what is it? So immediately when I get to Northern Ireland, I'm gonna have to buy a UK Xbox. Yeah, because I'm gonna have. It's weird because I'm gonna want to take my games with me, but they're not gonna work. So I'm probably gonna trade in the Wii and all the games that I have for Wii, which is not a lot, but I still have all my PS2 games, but I won't be able to play them on a UK PS2 because I know that you have an old one. Yeah. So I'll have to go on Amazon and try to. It's hard being a crotchety old gamer.
It is, but your connection here, you should be able to download a bunch of stuff. I know Nicola, so Lavish DC Humor, her Xbox has connectability, so you can download stuff. I know that the other one does as well, so you should be able to download old games.
If they have a wireless, yeah, but those are Xbox games. I'm talking PS2. I mean, I suppose if I got a PS4, which I want to eventually, a lot of that stuff is available as downloads on PSN because there was an HD release of Okami for PS3, which I totally will take advantage of.
Yep.
Because, oh my god, I mean, let me just tell you what. I had pre-ordered whatever Final Fantasy came out that year, and I went to pick it up the day it was released. And then I saw Okami, and I'm like, okay, be a wolf god in feudal Japan, rewrite creation with your celestial brush. Wow! So I went up to the desk, and I said to the guy, I pre-ordered Final Fantasy? And he goes, yeah, okay, cool, let me get it for you. And I was like, wait, but so if I change my mind, you could just sell it to somebody else, right? He goes, well, did you put money down? And I said, no, I just pre-ordered. He goes, yeah, but, I mean, it's Final Fantasy. I was like, yeah, I know, but I want this instead. He's like, alright. And I still will go through and play that. And if you've never played Okami, it came out for, there was one that came out for Wii, but its graphics weren't as good as the one for PS2, and I don't know if it was ever on Xbox or not. Somehow I don't think so. But basically, it's like living... It's such a beautiful game visually. It's like living in a Japanese woodcut. And how it never got... I mean, I know it got like a 1.5 kind of release, you know, on... Like, I think it was on, like, Wii or something like that, or on not on Wii, on DS or something. But it wasn't really a sequel, and then the company that made it's no longer in business, but how that never got a sequel, it's just terrible. And you know what? If you follow him, Smarty, from Blistered Thumbs, he did a really good, on the bandwagon review of it. So look that up. I think it's on Nerdvice somewhere.
Yes.
And Hagen's like, I agree.
What does this have to do with Dragon Age?
Nothing.
Oh dear. I was here to talk about Dragon Age.
You can talk. It's our podcast too.
Dragon Age.
So talk.
In the new game, I'm helping Lord Haramat, even though he, if you look at the epilogues, he's probably going to be worse than Balin overall, even though Balin's a cunt.
Balin's a kinslayer. So
he's a cunt.
Go Haramat. Besides, my warden was a dwarf, and I chose the noble background, so he was totally done. Oh, spoilers, by the way. He was totally done over by Balin. But my dwarf is a traditionalist, you know? He doesn't think that the dwarf should have a lot of outside engagement with the world.
Well, I noticed it whenever I got to Orzammar last night in my second game, when I played it for a couple of hours, that he is, that they mentioned the Lord Balin's two elder brothers. One of whom is the noble dwarf if you play the game. So the implication there is that all of the origins for all of the characters, of all the possible Grey Wardens, all happen, but the one you're playing is just the one that gets followed.
Yeah, that's true. Because, like, you know, you'll notice some people, like, if you talk to one NPC in a town, and if you, like, oh, wait a second, when I was in Denerim, in this bar, I saw that guy there. Yeah, it's a continuous world. Everything is connected, which is really awesome.
Although I think if I play it again, I'm going to play, because the first game I played rogue, so even though I was the worst type of rogue, because I would just wade in there with a sword, with two swords, and just start smacking things and have big heavy chainmail armor and stuff. So, but next I think I'll play just as a commoner dwarf warrior, because I really want to have a commoner clanless dwarf with a massive tattoo across their face, sort of make all the rich dwarves and all be all like, oh no, what's going on? We have to treat them with respect. Ah.
Yeah, my hawk in 2 had a facial tattoo, because fuck, that's awesome. And relevant to our interests, as I mentioned, you can totally be gay, and no one gives a shit. You know? Like, Hawk in Dragon Age 2, well, my Hawk anyway, is romancing Isabella, the pirate who's witty and charming and no stranger to the phrase, huge tracts of land. And so, if you get to a certain point with, you know, approval, and you've been flirty and stuff like that, it will trigger a cutscene the next time you come back to your mansion that Isabella will be waiting there, and if you give the right answers, you guys have a chaste little sexy time cutscene. So immediately after that cutscene, you know, you're playable again. And so I went back downstairs and initiated dialogue with my mother, who was standing around, and she was like, you know, it's been like 20 years since your father died. I should probably think about a suitor and things and stuff. Well, I know you and your pirate, your girl, you don't want me in your way and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow. This is the same woman who, a few cutscenes ago, was like, well, it's good that we've all settled down here in the city. Now I just have to set about finding you a husband. And it was just so awesome to me that, like, in the same vein as women being warriors, in Thedas, no one cares if you're gay. It's, like, not even a thing. The major religions don't mention it. I don't know if there's anything in the Qun about it. I know that the Maker certainly doesn't seem to care. Neither does the Chantry. I liked that. Come on, it's awesome.
I'm very amused. Although, as far as I can tell, in the romancing section, you've got one straight character. Each sex has one straight character and one bisexual character. For the guys, you've got what do you call him? Zevran's the bisexual romance person, and who's the straight one? That's Alistair, is it?
Yeah, but he's only a romance option if you're playing a female warden.
Yeah, so he's heterosexual.
Yeah.
And then on, with women, you've got Liliana's bisexual, and Morrigan is straight.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of would have liked, having a dedicated gay one as well.
Yeah, but I think they have to do it that way just because they don't know if you're going to play a guy or a girl,
Oh yeah, but they could have set up the algorithm that, like, if for instance, if you're playing a woman and you try to seduce Morrigan, it's never going to work. They could have set up something similar so that if you're playing, say, a guy and they arbitrarily made Wynn a lesbian, then the guy could never seduce Wynn, but a woman could.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, I can see that.
Just equalize it out.
I heard a rumor, although, like I said, this is a rumor from a random game blog, so take this at no face value. I heard a rumor that all the companions, except a few, are going to be able to go both ways, but don't quote me on that in any kind of real capacity.
I will quote you!
Mm-hmm. Well, you can quote me, but that might be wrong. And this guy that I know, that I follow on social media, for some reason he was annoyed with David Geider because he made a statement saying he didn't like Pacific Rim, and this guy did like Pacific Rim, so he was arguing about that, not with David Geider, but about it on his blog, and he was like, oh, I guess David Geider's just pissed off that he can't, just make a relationship be about numbers and stuff like that. And I was like, that's a pretty poor criticism because the guy doesn't like a movie that you liked. But I read a few more articles about that because I wanted to find out, is that like a commonly held, belief about this game? And apparently there's some social justice warriors out there who liken the companion romances to rape. Like, oh, they don't really love you. You're just making them love you by choosing dialogue options and giving them gifts. You're stonewalling them into sex. And I'm like, well, but
they don't really exist.
It's an algorithm. I mean, like, think about how you get to know someone in real life. Oh, you hang out a lot. You go on a lot of adventures, i.e. go to the mall a lot, I guess. And you talk like, oh, hey, I saw this book and I thought you might like it. Oh, gee, thanks, Like, that's how you get to know someone in real life. Like, just because you get them a gift, obviously, does not mean that they're going to sleep with you. But, I mean, I think that the romance function in BioWare games are a pretty close representation of having actual AI companions, This is as close as it's going to get to role-playing without other people.
It's a simplification in game terms of a romance. It's not perfect. There are ways to improve it, but likening it to rape is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I couldn't really go along that chain of...
There's only one thing in video games that you can really liken to rape, and that is controlling your character to forcibly have sex with another character.
And that's not even an option in Dragon Age, not at all.
I just think of how horrible it is. I can play a completely evil bastard, yet I cannot rape people. It's unfair.
That's horrible.
I'm joking.
Okay. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can see it from a little bit from the other direction, but I think that's kind of a little bit going too far. That's trying to be offended about something.
They're giving human agency to the fictional characters. If actually rape in the context of the world was happening, then you could bitch about that. But you're saying it's analogous to rape whenever the character doesn't even exist. So you can't have something that's analogous to rape in this context.
Yeah, and pretty much you have to really want to have sex. You have to, not really have sex, but you really want to have a relationship with the person. And it's kind of really difficult in Origins because you don't know. You just try to give like the option that you think that they would like, and it would get their approval. But there's no way to tell if it works. Whereas in Dragon Age 2, where you have the diplomatic, the charming, or the aggressive response, then you have a response that shows a heart, which means this is the flirty response. And there's one point where the male mage Anders kind of like flirts with you, and unbidden. And he's the only character that does, by the way. And so the only option that you have is aggressive, the heart one, which will get you which is you flirting back, or the broken heart one, which is I don't want a relationship. And so I had to choose that because I had no other options. So I chose that, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not really interested." He goes, "Oh, I see. Just business then. I won't bother you anymore." And I lost 10 approval. And I was like, "Seriously, dude, you are so emo." I don't swing that way. Well, the other lesbian option in Dragon Age 2 is Meryl, who is a young elven mage. Now, the problem is, and it's too bad because her voice actress is amazing, and I looked it up and she's a Welsh actress. is that she's an elf, so she looks like she's 16. And you pretty much look like you're in your late 20s, early 30s. And I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. I could technically be Meryl's mother. Not happening.
I also like, now this is completely just ridiculous, I liked going to the Pearl. I was really trying to get my all my companion characters laid, because it's a brothel. And my character got laid, and I was like, okay, fine, that was amusing. Then I was trying to get all my companion characters laid, but in various ways. Be like, okay, I'm gonna make Sten have sex with a man, and then suddenly it's my character having sex with a man. It's like, god damn it! I want to make my characters get laid. The other characters should get laid too, but they don't let you.
Well, that would be probably against the Q somehow, first step.
But if you spend a lot of money on that and keep asking for, like, you know, random stuff, apparently you get ridiculouser and ridiculouser things in the room with you.
Mm-hmm. Well,
like
I know that
tools.
when you run into you liar, power tools.
Well, they have scarecrows in one.
Oh, I guess. Well, when you run into Isabella, because she isn't in the first game, she will. Well, if Zevran's there, she'll definitely go with him because they had a thing beforehand. But if you're playing a girl and you're romanced to Liliana, you can have a threesome. And apparently, if Ogren the dwarf is in your party at that time, and you go do that, he passes out, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, it's a great game, and I know that we're talking a lot about this game. Okay, somewhere from now like 5 to 3 years between the time of the two came out, but they're new to me and they're new to Hagen, and also the next one's coming out in the fall. So.
And within the next week, I'm most likely going to buy Dragon Age Origins Awakening.
See, it came in the mail, but I am waiting because I'm finishing my second playthrough of 2, and then I want to do something different with the Warden before I import the save. And that's another thing, too, is you can import your saves, so your own personal version of the universe can continue on in the next game.
Yeah.
That's neat. But I'm glad you're having fun with it, and you're finally not being a douche.
Though I'm going to continue on playing with my original character, because I like them.
Oh, yeah, you can. That's what I mean. I mean, there's some stuff that I want to do before I import that save with my Warden. Otherwise, you have to be an Orlesian, and ew, no one likes the Orlesians, dirty Frenchies. I mean, what?
I like the Orlesians.
Like Orlais, which is basically France.
And then I noticed that Zevran's basically Spanish.
Yeah, Antiva is basically Spain.
It's even more blatant than Warhammer Fantasy Battle.
But it's weird, though, because I wouldn't exactly call the Free Marches America. And I wouldn't really call Ferelden Britain. And I was making fun and joking that Tevinter was, the Tevinter Imperium is kind of like Germany, but it really isn't. So, take that as you will.
I think it's a mixture of several other things. It's like, honestly, I think it's an example of taking medieval Britain / Ireland as generic, and then they turned like Orlais being France and stuff. That was based on them being slightly different, so therefore it is sort of British, but it's just like their idea is that Britain is generic.
Yeah.
And the foreign, the non-British ones are foreign. I think that's what it's like.
Well, the Dalish elves in 2, the ones that are camping near the city, all have Irish accents. And it's kind of funny because some have Republic of Ireland accents. And then I walked past this one guy who basically said, "Don't touch anything, all our arrows are trained on you." But I was like, that voice actor's from Belfast, he sounds like Aaron. So there's one Northern Irish elf.
Where was that in Origins? No,
that was in 2.
Okay, because I think I have heard a Northern Irish accent in Origins. I can't recall though.
It was just that's how I can tell. If someone has a Northern Irish accent, they sound like Nicola. They're from Derry. If they sound like Aaron, they're from Belfast.
What if we introduced you to a Portadown accent?
I don't even know that one, so I have no comparison. I don't know many of your towns. I know there's Oma, where the bus goes, and there was also an explosion, and Dungiven, which has a castle, but you and your dad don't think so.
Yeah, Dungiven's about 20 miles away from Derry. Then there's Portadown is closer to Belfast. There's Larne, there's Armagh, there's Ballymena, Carrickfergus.
New buildings.
That's a little village near Derry, yep.
There's a chip shop there.
It's a very good chip shop, usually.
That's should be the motto of the UK. Chips on everything, every day.
Damn right.
But yeah, I really think that you should play too. I think that you'll like it. If you can get over your speciesist attitude.
I want to play as a dwarf or an elf.
Well, you could be a human this time.
I get to play as a human every single day of my life. I don't want to play as a human. Humans are shit.
I see that I won't be able to change your mind. Wait a minute, you're playing as a human mage.
Yeah, 'cause I chose to.
Well, but you can always, you can play with your appearance in this one, and it's just, more awesome. Plus, whichever class you choose determines which one of your siblings will die in the first 5 minutes, so that should make you happy. Because, I chose to be a warrior, and if you're a warrior, then your brother Carver, who's kind of a douche and is at full rivalry for you, gets taken out in the beginning. I was like, oh, good. I didn't like him.
Carver Hawk. You call yourself Ethan Hawke.
Well, no, apparently, Yahtzee did. He said, and the game is long. I mean really long. So if you play a character with the first name Ethan, it gets old. Is what he said.
Oh. I don't want to have a surname called Hawk. That'd be stupid.
But it's a good Ferelden name. What's wrong with you?
I want to call something else.
You can choose your first name.
I want to change their surname to Mumford.
You can't. Besides, I told you this is because everything is fully voiced, so just go with it. Okay.
How about Sidebottom?
No. Now you're just being absurd to be contrary, so it's time for the dictionary.
One of my elder siblings, I can't remember which, in school knew a person who had the surname Sidebottom.
Okay.
So it's a real surname.
I believe you, but that's just not how it's going to be for you. So you just have to deal with it. You have to be a human with the last name Hawk. So I have the dictionary. What page should I turn to?
800.
It does go up to 800. 1 or 2?
2.
Okay, out of 25.
23.
Want. Accustomed. He was wont to go to bed early. Want. A habit or custom. Went to bed early, as was his wont. Do not confuse with wont.
So it's want. Okay. We're not, now, because of this audio thing, with the problem with my internet, I don't know if we're going to get an episode next week. It'll depend, we might have problems, still. If I can get it recorded here, okay. If not, and the problem continues.
Next week, or next time anyway, will be special because it will be our 50th episode. Ah.
Yeah, whenever it happens. Hopefully it'll be good and worth it.
So, I've been the Omega Geek, and who do you want to have been today?
Chi.
There you go. I can deal with that.